All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a look at Unit 2, Lesson 3 in our code.org accounts. And we are now looking at headings. So, just as a reminder, we have started HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is the language of all websites. This first unit, we will be building a personal website. So, we are going to start off with this idea of paired programming because sometimes you will be put in groups to look at your code.
Great things come in pairs. Peanut butter and jelly. Salt and pepper. Batman and Robin. Pair programming is when two people work together at the same computer to write code. There are two roles. One person is the driver,
and one person's the navigator.
The driver is the person using the computer, actually typing the code.
The navigator is keeping track of the big picture and helping the driver decide what code to write next.
Your driver is your Jedi, and your navigator is your Yoda.
Oh, you already wrote the test?
No, I did kind of faked
Okay,
it.
I'll make a note that we should come back to that. Sometimes when I'm stuck and I'm programming on my own, I'll ask somebody else to be my pair programmer because they may see a solution that I missed.
Like this one?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's important to switch roles often.
So that we can practice both roles and learn from one another.
You want to switch?
Yeah.
I think I don't.
Yeah. I do mistakes while coding. Of course, it's normal. This button isn't working.
It's a bug. I think pair programming makes it a lot easier to ask for help. You figure out that making mistakes is okay. And you learn how to forgive yourself and also other people when you're working with a partner, which makes you become more sociable and easier to talk to. It's a useful skill in life.
Yep. So when you get the opportunity to get other people's point of view on things, it's very important to take that advice.
Because you realize you were wrong, you accept the feedback, and then you become better because of it.
Hey, it works.
You're looking at the human part and the code part. You're not just coding without any emotions. You're coding as a person with another person.
That's what I was saying.
And as people, we need to have good conversations while we're coding so that we don't become like robots.
Pair programming is working together to write code as a team and as friends.
All right, so obviously the paired programming piece is going to be a little more difficult for us because we are in a virtual situation, but obviously there will be times where I will pair you up with somebody, put you in a breakout room, and allow you to share your screen so that way you guys can have that experience. As always, when you are done with a bubble inside of a lesson, make sure you hit the orange button on the bottom for continuing and moving on. And when you do that, you'll notice at top, our button turns to a different color. All right, so as always, I am going to walk you through some of the part of the lesson to sort of explain how things work. And hopefully you'll follow along, and then there will be part of the lesson that you will be working on individually. All right, so paired programming. Two heads are better than one. Right now, all of you guys are my partner. The HTML code has some bugs that are making the code pink. Do this. Working with a partner, fix the HTML bugs so that none of the code is pink. Together, come up with one piece of debugging advice. Okay, so anytime we have a mistake or a problem in a code, we're going to call it a bug. And the reason why it's called a bug is because in the early days of computing, there were literal, like, computers were huge. They would take up whole rooms. And a literal bug, I think it was a moth, got into one of these room-sized computers and caused it to short circuit, and then it died and the code wouldn't work, and it was an actual literal bug. And we no longer have actual literal bugs inside of our computers, but we still use that terminology. All right. So let's take a look at this code. I'm going to make my instructions smaller. Now, when I look at the bottom here, I see pink code. I need to figure out what is going on. Pink code always means there's some kind of mistake. The easiest way to do this is to make sure you turn on your inspector and go line by line. So if I look at this line, I see my opening tag right here. Let me turn this off for 1 second. I see my opening tag right here. P, and my closing HTML tag right there is also P. That one's fine. Reasons, I see an opening tag and a closing tag. I see an opening and a closing tag. All right, let's take a look at number 2 here for a minute. What is going on with number 2? What do you notice? What is missing from number 2? Anybody? There's no opening tag, correct. And you'll notice the closing tag here is pink. Pink tells me there's a mistake. So in order to fix this bug, I need to put in my opening tag. All right, cool. So now that tag turned purple. So now I fix that. Opening tag, closing tag, and I'm just literally going line by line through my code. I have an opening tag, a closing tag, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing. Ah, cool. I don't see any more pink code. I am cool. All right. As long as there's no pink code, everything should be working okay. And again, I have all of these paragraphs set up with an opening tag and a closing tag. So hopefully all of my stuff has been fixed now. Once I am done with a level, make sure you hit the finish or continue orange button on the bottom. Once that is done, it sends it to me on the teacher side of things. All right, next assignment. Let's see what it says. So far, you've organized your content into paragraphs. Another way HTML allows you to organize your code is by using headings. Remember, HTML is the language of websites that helps us to organize our content. So right now, we know how to make paragraphs. Well, we also are going to learn how to make headings. Okay, it says do this. Find the headings in the web page below and use the inspector tool to see the code that makes them. Make sure you and your partner agree on what the there we go. Make sure that you and your partner agree on what the tags do. Change the code so that drawing and 2 years match the headings on the rest of the page. Okay, cool. So let me get rid of my instructions. All right, so I want to look at my heading. So in order to do that, I'm going to turn on my inspector tool. If I go to where it says My Hobbies, I can see that that tag for headings is an H, but then there's a number. Okay, so maybe, but it works the same way. It's still that less than, the actual tag, greater than, and then on the end, I have the closing tag with the slash on it. So it's built the same way. It's just instead of being a P, I now have an H and a number. Okay, so H1 is this main heading. If I roll down to soccer, I see it says H2. Okay, so 1 is the main heading, 2 is obviously some kind of a subheading, so it's going to be slightly smaller. When I hover over 5 years, that says H4. It's even smaller. So that's a little weird. Main headings, they're number 1, and then the smaller the heading gets, the number gets bigger, which is a little weird, but that's just, I don't know. I'm not the one that made up this code. I didn't write the language. What can I tell you? All right, then I have a paragraph for soccer. Awesome. Baking matches soccer. These are both H2s. 10 years matches 5 years. These are both H4s. And you can see this is just obviously it's a personal website about somebody's hobbies. They like soccer, they like baking. They're telling us how long they've done those hobbies. All right, so now if I go to the bottom, I have drawing and 2 years. Now remember, in the instructions, it asked me to make drawing and 2 years match the rest of the website. So in order to do that, I want drawing to look like soccer and baking. So I'm going to go back to baking, and it's an H2. So if I go down to drawing, instead of having a P here, I'm going to go ahead and change that to H2. And then my closing tag, I will also change to H2. 2. And refresh and save. And once I do that, you'll notice the word drawing now is set up in the same manner that soccer and baking is, because I'm using the same opening and closing HTML tags, because those HTML tags are going to give it the different structure pieces. Now my job is to make where it says 2 years look like 5 years and 10 years. I want all of my headings to match. So if I look at my 10 years, that is an H4 or heading 4. So I'm going to change my code. We're on line 25 of my code where it says 2 years. I'm going to change the P's to H4s. I'm going to change my P to H4. And when I do that, you can see over here, it now looks exactly like 5 years, 10 years, 2 years. And they all look the same because they all have the same code that is correcting or controlling, I should say, the formatting of it. All right, any issues or questions on bubble 3? Okay, I'm not hearing any. As always, when you are done with a bubble, make sure you hit finish, and it will take you to the next thing while simultaneously sending that information to me. Okay, headings can come in different sizes. In this page, there are 6 different size headings, but they are all mixed up. Can we agree how to fix them? Do this using the inspector tool to figure out what makes a heading different sizes. Make sure that you and your partner agree on what the different heading tags do. Change the heading tags so that they are in order from largest to biggest. And the text says the correct size as in the picture below. And is there a picture below? Yes, okay. Awesome. So let me get, I hate it when I lose my mouse. There we go. All right, so I'm going to get rid of my instructions. All right, so the biggest, again, I'm going to turn my inspector on. I have H3 on the word biggest. How can I change my code to make the word biggest actually become the largest tag? Instead of H3, what should I be using? All right, let's try it. So H4, I change my 3s to 4s, and it actually got smaller. So what do we want to try now? I want the word biggest to be the biggest. What should I make the tag? One more time. H1. All right, let's try H1. And again, guys, the thing with computer science, don't be, okay, there we go. It's pretty big now. All right, so my first one is H1. So the next one, which says big, this one is H6. But I want this one to be the next largest, right? We want it to be order from biggest to smallest. So I should change my H6 to what? All right, somebody's saying in the chat H2. Awesome. Let's see what happens. And again, I'm just changing my code because we can do that. All right, cool. All right, what do we do with where it says medium big? What do I change this H4 to? Ooh, thank you. Somebody said, nope, no, yep, H3. Thank you. Again, I know it's a little counterintuitive, but the biggest is number 1. All right, medium small. What do I need to use here? Thank you. And some of you guys are using the chat to communicate, and that is perfectly fine. Because now that I'm using 2 screens with my Zoom, I can actually see the chat and share my screen at the same time. All right. Small, I think is okay at H5. Yep, awesome. And then where it says smallest, what should I be using here? Heading 6. Good job. Yes. Perfect. All right. All right. So I'm going from biggest, H1, H2, H3, H4, 5, and 6. So again, these are all different sized headings. They still have that opening tag, they still have a closing tag, and instead of using P for paragraph, we're using H for heading, and then we're controlling what size the heading is based on the number. 1 is largest, 6 is smallest. Issues or questions with heading sizes? All right. So if you are done with bubble 4, make sure you go ahead and hit finish or continue or whatever is on that orange button on the bottom. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you have at this time it says look at the code below and predict how the headings will be displayed. And I'm sure this looks slightly different on the student side. So I want you to decide if this is my code H3, H1, H6, which one of these would correspond with this code. So if you believe it's here or here or here or here, whichever one you think it is, go ahead and pick it. And then when you're done, go ahead and hit submit. Again, the thing to remember is that H1 is going to be larger than H6. I know it's a little weird and a little counterintuitive, but it is what it is. Issues or questions? Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on. All right. We have one more short video. And then you'll have time to get to work on 7 and 8.
Programming's a game. It's something that you and the computer are working towards together.
But you're gonna fail a lot. Get comfortable with failing because it happens.
When you program, you have to get it wrong because that's how you learn.
When you do make mistakes, you're like, okay, it's fine. I can fix this.
Everyone gets bugs, whether you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, everyone gets bugs.
When a computer's not working the way it's supposed to, the way we want it to, we call that a bug.
I get bugs. I get bugs.
I get bugs.
I get bugs.
I totally get bugs.
Everyone gets bugs. Debugging is basically just looking through your code and correcting your mistakes and fixing it.
There are 4 really important steps that you want to follow when you're debugging.
The first thing you want to do is describe your problem. So figure out what's happening. What did you want your code to do, and what is it actually doing? Second step is you want to hunt for bugs. So figure out what is it in your code that's causing that. Step number 3 is you want to try out small solutions and see how they affect your code. And then finally, step 4 is you want to document what you've learned.
Debugging is maybe the number one thing that can help you become a better programmer because you're seeing the mistakes you made.
Don't do that. Can you help me with this for a second?
Can you help me with this for a second?
Most of the time I spend debugging is finding the bug, but once I find it, it's easy to fix.
What's this? You got bugs. Did your parents put that there? Maybe. I don't know. I like debugging with other people because they are like a second brain, which doubles your computing power, so you can figure out bugs twice as fast. Here we go. We did it.
Experts make bugs. They make big bugs. In fact, your goal should be, as you go along, make bigger and bigger bugs that need to be squashed, because that just means you're doing something worth doing.
You know, the more you practice, the better you get at it, the easier it will be.
I can debug.
I can debug. I can debug.
I can debug.
I can debug, and so can you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I do want to say this about debugging. For people who always believe that everything that they do has to be perfect, and trust me, I kind of am one of those people, it is very painful when you first start computer programming because you are going to make mistakes. But that's okay. If you are a gamer, and I'm sure there are people in here that are gamers, right? Especially if you game like through a website, like for example, like Steam, or if you download your games, maybe you're not necessarily doing the physical copies of the game, but a lot of times we download our games now, and then they send out patches for the games. That is the programmers that are professional programmers that screwed up the code, which are now sending out the patches. All the patch is debugging. So even when they send out and they sell you the product, when they find mistakes, they still go back and fix it. Everybody makes mistakes in their code. And the sooner you get more comfortable with that, the better of a programmer you will be. All right. So again, if you've watched the video on yours, just make sure you go ahead and hit continue. And again, I cannot stress it enough. Like when I first started programming, the hardest part for me was knowing that I was going to make mistakes because I'm one of those like crazy perfectionist types. Okay, so bubble 7 and bubble 8, you are going to kind of do on your own. I want to start. So you have A, B, C, and D. So let's go ahead and do A together on 7, and then you'll have the rest of the time to work on what you need to work on. So bubble A on number 7, it tells us that we have a debug. We have a missing paragraph. It says someone submitted a bug report on this web page. Can you fix the bug? 3 paragraphs, one for each on dogs, turtles, and birds. The turtle paragraph is missing. Do this, fix and find the bug. All right, so remember, the cool thing is we see pink. All right. So if I turn on my inspection and there's like the paragraph is completely missing. Looking at where take a look at line 11 of this code. Can somebody tell me what's going on with it? Why is my paragraph not showing up?
I think it's because about like the little mall thingy for the opening.
Yeah, the opening tag is wrong. Yep, instead of putting a greater than symbol, they've put a period. So let's go ahead and try a greater than. And there it is. Simple, easy peasy, guys. Again, the easiest way to go through it, first of all, figure out what the problem is, like they said. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hunt for the bug. So go line by line. Where does it start to turn pink? Where does it start to go wrong? And then find the code and try little things. All I did was delete a period and add a greater than symbol. And it fixed it. That's not that big of a thing. But I'm not going to go in and change huge chunks because then it's kind of like, you don't know exactly what you did. I can remember it used to be a period. Okay, so part A is now done. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish on that. And my computer's thinking. And I come back, and now you guys can work on C, D, or B, C, and D, but on your own. Bubble 8, when you get there, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. You have this giant blob of text. What it's asking you to do is to organize it. So you are going to use headers and paragraphs to organize your text. Now, I do want to point out about bubble number 9. These are some extra codes, and line break, horizontal. These are just some things that you may want to work on. You are not required to work on bubble 9, but you do need to complete 7 and you do need to complete 8. Sometimes we do the challenges, sometimes we don't. There's literally nothing in this code that is required later on down the line. Of course, it's always something nice to come back to. All right, so let me go ahead and stop my screen.